Hello and welcome to another edition of the NCBI podcast. I'm June Tinsley, Head of Communications and Advocacy with NCBI. And today I have the pleasure of being joined by Tony Murray, who is a long-standing supporter of NCBI. And thanks very much for having a chat with us today, Tony.
It's my pleasure, June. Thanks for having me.
Great. So I suppose just to, for the benefit of the listeners, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, certainly. So I'm a totally blind person. I've been blind since I was 2 years old. I have a condition called retinoblastoma. I've only recently been able to remember how to say that, but I had it written down there for a long time. But yeah, that's what it is, retinoblastoma. It's effectively like a cancer, which or tumors on the optic nerves, I guess. There's the very, very high level description of what it is. So yeah, I've been blind pretty much all my life. I'm 41 now. I really enjoy music. I play guitar. I'm actually just in the process of recording with a friend of mine over in Lucan. So we're doing a little bit of rock music, bit of progressive rock music. So that's going to be coming out in January. I'm looking forward to that. I also work in IT. I worked in IT for the past 20 years. I live in Dublin 9, not too far from the council actually, in Drumcondra. I'm just up in Beaumont. And yeah, that's pretty much me. I'm an aging rocker, an aging IT working rocker. That's pretty much what I am. So
you're not a cliche then in any shape or form.
Exactly. I'm all those things. Oh yeah, and I'm losing my hair too, which you have to be as an aging rocker. So that's good.
Naturally. So you tick that box as well. Well done. I suppose, as you say, you've been blind since you were a young child. Have you availed of many services of NCBI over the years?
Certainly, as a child, my parents were heavily engaged with the NCBI, with the I think they were called social workers at the time. I know they have a new title now, but at the time we got great support from the council. We particularly around just things like accessible games. So that like I've three brothers, all of them are fully sighted. So just accessible games, accessible cards, braille cards, stuff like this. Braille watches, talking clocks, getting access to all and getting information about and access to all these different things, which really facilitated me as a child to have kind of, in quotes, I'm doing quote signs, a normal childhood integrated with my fully sighted, my fully sighted brothers and their fully sighted friends, etc. So I was able to, participate in all the games and all the various bits and pieces that growing children tend to do. I think my parents at the time got great sort of advice and support from the NCBI in terms of just integration and to basically put me out there and treat me as normally or as in the standard fashion as they possibly could in terms of my upbringing, and that really stood to me. I think, and I still benefit from that upbringing that I had around kind of just getting stuck in and doing what everybody does. And then there's obviously the access to education and information about what supports in terms of schooling were available around Braille, and getting my first Perkins Braille machine. I don't know if the Perkins Braille machine still exists, but I still have mine. But these kinds of things all from the NCBI, so they were a great support to both myself and my parents as a child.
And as you rightly say, fair play to your parents, because I can imagine there can be a bit of a tendency to essentially wrap the child up in cotton wool a bit, but it sounds as if your parents were treating you just like your siblings and trying to make sure that you were able to fully participate in all aspects of childhood, regardless of the fact that you were unable to see.
There certainly was that, and I was actually only speaking to my mum about this last week. There was a bit of a divide, amongst my parents, back in the 80s when this all went down. When my dad passed away a couple of years ago in 2013, but my dad was always of the kind of mindset, he needs to be minded and, taken care of and blah, blah, blah. Whereas my mom was the complete opposite. She was just like, throw him out on the street with the other kids and let him play football and fall over and, cut his knees and do all that stuff, as well. So I think between my dad's conservatism and my mum's total abandon, I guess, they found a happy medium. And here
Good.
I am, I
And
guess,
you obviously thrived on it.
Well, I guess to a degree.
Good. And obviously you're still connected with NCBI through your membership of our group board. So tell us what motivated you to join our group board.
Yeah, well, I've always been kind of, I was always involved through my whole adult life with the VIX, the Visually Impaired Computer Society, and as such, I always kind of had fairly close bonds with the NCBI. So we used to like, run events, etc. with the NCBI. We'd be meeting with representatives, using your premises for various things and using your supports, etc. Um, and it just kind of came as a natural progression from that. I became very familiar with Chris, the CEO of the NCBI, through various meetings. I got a real insight from talking to him and others around what the NCBI were trying to do, back in sort of 2015, 2016. And the opportunity came up to become a member of the board, and Chris approached me to do so. And I think it was just sort of it was a natural progression for me to move on and kind of give a little bit back in terms of the areas I'm interested in and focused on, both at an NCBI level now and through my work. So I'm really interested in facilitating people in terms of their education and access to employment, people who are blind and visually impaired, because it's an experience I've lived, and it's an experience a lot of my peers have lived and are living at the moment. So kind of going in under that banner, and obviously with my technical background, and obviously the NCBI are doing some really, really good stuff in the technology space at the moment with the AI labs and all that's going on. It's really, really impressive. So I think from both the perspective of my technical background and my interest in education and employment, and then my career has kind of given me the opportunity to learn about strategy and these kind of supporting strategies and parallel strategies, etc. That kind of gave me a little bit of a good sort of, I guess, a good bit of a CV to be a reasonable board member of the NCBI. So that's kind of where it all landed. So it really fell into place, and it's worked out quite well. And I really enjoy being a part of the organization, and in an area where we can really influence how the organization moves, with the kind of direct impact being on benefiting the service users. Because I am a service user myself, so it comes full circle in a lot of ways too.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a total win-win situation because obviously NCBI can avail of your skills and expertise and experience,
Mm.
and then it can work for you to make sure that the areas of passion that you're interested in can be progressed even more within NCBI. So, as I said, it's a win-win situation. And in terms of your experience of employment, as you say, you've been in the IT sector for a number of years now. What was your role in the AIB, and did you enjoy it?
Yeah, so I I had my first job was in a very small, at the time the .com thing was on, it was in 2001, mid to the summer 2001. And my first job was in this little .com outfit, and I really went in there for a couple of months. And to say I had no idea what I was doing is a massive understatement. I really, I was given a desk and a computer, and I was told to do a bunch of stuff. And I was a software, I was called a software consultant at the age of 21, having had a job before. And but
Fancy title.
this was a product of the .com era. Everyone was a consultant of some degree.
Yeah.
But so I went in there, and I was there for a couple of months. And funny enough, the NCBI, Dennis Daly, actually approached me and said there were some opportunities in AIB coming up for kind of, they were temporary contracts, but I was on a temporary contract in this other job too, to take up employment in AIB, and to go and have a think about it, and see what I thought. In one way, I was thinking, I want to be kind of at the cutting edge of technology, and I want to work for the .com outfits, and I want to be involved in these little pokey offices in these little buildings, where I'm working 12 hours a day, because I was young and I was enthusiastic, etc. But another, I was thinking, and definitely haven't spoken to my parents. They're saying, AIB, geez, job for life, son, this kind of thing.
Permanent and pensionable.
Exactly. So I waited up and I went forward for the interview, and I got the interview, and sure, it was a 6-month contract, but sure, I was only in the door maybe a few weeks, and they offered me a permanent job. Which was great, which was a real boost at the time to myself, but more my parents, because their 21-year-old lad had got a job in the big bank, and he was going to be grand, so that was a box ticked for them. But
exactly.
yeah, so in that was great, and I really got a sense of achievement from that, and I was delighted for my parents more than anything. But I got a job there, working in the IT department, uh, working as a software engineer. Very wet behind the ears, hadn't a clue really what I was up to. But I kind of learned very quickly what I was working on. I was working on the one of the old implementations of internet banking. When internet banking was this really mystical, cool thing that no one really knew anything about. But I was involved in the development of that, and I kind of got stuck in that area for a long time as a software engineer. Learned my skills, did my cut my teeth, all that sort of stuff, and became a reasonable software engineer, I'd say. And then naturally progressed onto kind of a team management, looking after a team, and I got involved in the business intelligence area, where it's all data analytics and stuff like this. And that sort of really forged my career to a degree, the moving into analytics and business intelligence. I still benefit from stuff I learned in AIB back in 2005, 2006 when I moved into the area, even now in the job I'm doing now. But I stayed in AIB, gaining all these different skills, and unknowingly, because I was just kind of doing my job. So I was getting project management ability. I was getting, bettering my software engineering skills. I was getting people management skills. I was learning about data. I was learning about the power of data, and all these different things. Like, even back in the day, we used to call it, like like things like predictive analytics, where they call it machine learning and AI, and all this stuff. But in those days, it was all just, have a look at a big data set and see if you can
Yeah,
write a bit of
the
software.
jargon wasn't there.
It wasn't, yeah, and it was far less cool, to be honest with you. But I was kind of in it to start that, so that was a lot of fun. Really working maybe was a lot of fun.
And
But
did you need much adaptations in terms of just being able to do your job?
to be fair, I've kind of had a charmed existence in my employment all the way down through the years. I've always been given the technology I need. So, like, really,
Great.
to operate to the full extent of my capabilities, all I really need is a laptop with JAWS.
Yeah.
Um, Now, I'm kind of spoiled at the moment. I'm working from my home office here, and we'll probably touch on this later, but I'm surrounded by kind of fancy adaptation tech here at the moment. Thanks to my employer. But at the time, it was very easy for AIB. Just to, they got me JAWS, gave me a PC at the time. They installed it, did all that, and really it was fairly seamless, and there was is it was a nice building at the time out in Ballsbridge. I think it's Facebook now, actually, but at the time it was a nice place to be. Now, the commute was a little bit long. I grew up in Dublin 9. I had to go to Dublin 4 every day, but I got very used to that very, very quickly. So yeah, the adaptation to working has
Brilliant.
been, as I said, it's been charmed. I've been charmed, so it's been grand.
And long may that last, because in fairness, it should be as seamless as you describe. Often
Absolutely.
not the case, though, but I'm
Hmm.
glad it is for you.
True.
And you're now obviously with the central bank, and as you know, central bank are one of the core workplace partners with NCBI. And to be fair to the bank, they're quite a proactive, inclusive employer.
Yeah.
Certainly trying to not only hire individuals who are blind or vision impaired, but just being very proactive in the whole disability awareness training,
Mm.
or stuff within the physical office environment as well,
Yeah.
being very disability friendly. And are you enjoying working there with them?
I really am. I've been here in the central bank. Oh, I'm saying here in the central bank. I'm actually sitting in my box room, but but I've been in the central bank for over 6 years now. So my career in AIB just kind of came to a natural conclusion. I think I'd kind of gone as far as I wanted to in AIB, and I really wanted to change. So I kind of jumped out of AIB in maybe 20, I'm going to say 2014, maybe early 2014. I haven't worked there for, like 13 years. And then I moved into just bounced around the private sector for about a year. Didn't really know what I was at again at the age of 35, 34, 35. Um, and then landed the central bank gig, where I've been ever since. And it's really, really working well there. As you say, they're an extremely inclusive employer. Um, I've got a I've got a really, really good team around me. They're very, very proactive in terms of their D&I agenda. It's all about seamless inclusion. The building which we work in North Waukee has won several awards for its accessibility and its effect, its usability, which is really impressive. It's a really really comfortable place to be. So yeah, again, I kind of feel like I'm throwing a very very positive spin on my life, but as I said, I've had a good time, in my employment for the past 20
which is
years.
brilliant, which is
Yeah,
brilliant.
yeah.
And you'd hope that that would be very standardized across different sectors and employers, but unfortunately, that's not the case.
Hmm.
But certainly, by having a leading employer, like the central bank, kind of championing things, as you say, like D&I, which is diversity and inclusion, it really helps push that agenda, I think.
That's for sure. And since I started working in the central bank, I have been involved in this diversity and inclusion stuff as well in there, and it's really really impressive. They really want to do the right thing. And as you can imagine, it's a huge corporate, public organization, and to get anything done in there can be quite challenging. It's like trying to turn an oil tanker, really, in a lot of ways. But at this stage, the central bank they've got their policies in place around facilitating the hiring of people with disabilities and giving them meaningful employment. They've got their infrastructure in place, as I mentioned. The building is exceptional, and they're building a new building at the moment, which is also exceptional in terms of its accessibility. So now the next step is to kind of reach out to the talent pool that's out there, of people with disabilities and get them in, because we've come to a situation in wider industry, but certainly in the central bank, where we need people to fulfill the roles that we have. And the central bank are very, very aware that there are significant abilities amongst people with disabilities, who are just ripe for the picking, effectively. And this is where the partnership with the NCBI is going to progress next year, because we need effectively a channel to go out to blind and visually impaired people to effectively improve the way the central bank works, and to fulfill our role and our mandate as a public sector organization. We need people, we need skills, we need knowledge, and we're very aware that there is that amongst people who are blind and visually impaired. We just need the bridge, and that's what we're going to use the NCBI for. So I'm going to use myself as a director in the NCBI to do that. So
That's
it's
right. That's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
And tell me, obviously, during COVID, you've been working from home. Do you think that model lends itself to the better recruitment of people with disabilities into diverse roles?
I believe so. I think the central bank have been very, very good in terms of facilitating people with all various needs. And it's not only disability related needs. I mean, I think, like, I manage a team of some really 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 excellent people, and again, they've all got children. They might live in different locations. So everyone's got individual needs, and the central bank are very very aware of that, and they really really help to kind of make your working experience as seamless as possible in terms of your remote working and your ability to do your job. Because let's be honest, it's within their interest to do that. But they
Exactly.
also they also take the personal approach too. They ensure that if you have children, and you need to pick them from school, that's perfectly fine. Go and do that. It's grand. From my own perspective, if I needed a little bit of extra technology, or not if I needed, if we kind of fancied a bit of extra technology, it's that can be facilitated too. It's all about just making people comfortable and making them, as productive and comfortable in their work, and and just building work around people's lives as well. So letting people live and do what they have to do. As I said, I manage a team of really really exceptional technology people, and it's a real good place for me to be able to use the tools that the central bank affords me as a people manager, to let my team uh, you know perform to the highest degree and be happy doing so. And that's not always possible. And it's been a good thing to be able to do throughout this kind of got nearly 2 years of lockdown. So it's working well, I think. But from the perspective of people with disabilities, and particularly blind and visually impaired people, it's if you have a decent laptop, a decent connection to the internet, you've got your JAWS software, or your NVDA, or whatever set of headphones. you're pretty much ready to rock. I know an awful lot of jobs, because the central bank actually consists of so many different areas of expertise, from accountancy, economics, IT, everything, HR,
Yeah,
security, blah blah.
big
Everyone's
employer.
able everyone's able to perform the role, and I think, and everyone can perform the role from the comfort of their own desk at home with a laptop. And if you can do that, and you just happen to be blind, you can do that too if you've got JAWS on your laptop. So it really, really opens up a lot of possibilities. And plus, you know, commuting as a blind and visually impaired person, it can be challenging. It can be,
Very much so.
and I've only realized in the past year and a half, 2 years since I've been working from home full time, I'm far less stressed. And it's because of the commute. I'm not like, I live 5 kilometers from my workplace. And even the 5 kilometer commute, which takes like nearly an hour, but it's
Yeah.
not having to do it every morning. In that hour I took to commute every morning, I go for a walk every morning for an hour now. So I'm healthier, I'm less stressed, and I'm feeling way better about life. So
Yeah,
it's
I mean, as you rightly say, there's been some unintended bonuses to COVID. It's been certainly a long journey for many, many people.
for sure.
Um, but it is the benefit has been people have demonstrated their productivity by working from home. So it shouldn't be seen as a luxury or a bonus anymore. It should be seen as a real route to access the labour market, and to be able to work from home productively.
That's for sure. And particularly in the game I'm in, like in the IT game, like my role in the central bank is, I'm what they call a senior solution architect. So I don't really know what that title still means. I've been here for 6.5 years, but it's so yeah, we effectively design software and applications for both the central bank and for, to basically facilitate communication with the central bank and the European Central Bank and various other European bodies around the place. Um, so as architects of technology, there's really, we can execute our roles to the same degree as we can if we're all sitting together in a building
Correct.
in Orthogi. There's no difference. The only, well, there is the only difference is the lack of socializing and meeting people face to face. And there is a dynamic that's lost over WebEx and Teams or whatever. But in terms of executing your role and facilitating the bank to execute their mandate, I think we're doing pretty good. We're doing pretty good.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Hmm.
And I suppose the last question, Tony, I'll ask is the same question I ask all my interviewees, which is, what one piece of advice would you give to another person recently diagnosed with a sight loss condition?
Um, do you know, I was just actually this morning involved in a DNI event which was hosted by the central bank, which we had a presentation from an organization called Blue Diamond. If you're ever on Google, have a look at them. They're exceptional. But they represent people with disabilities in the kind of in the area of theatre. But one thing I always sort of say, and I said to those people this morning as well, is if you are disabled or acquire a disability in some way, it's important to always remember that your abilities will probably and should trump your disability every time. So, you may have lost your sight, or you may have lost something of your sight. You may find yourself partially sighted, but it's important to try and not focus on that disability. It's to try and focus on your abilities, because ultimately, you know, losing your sight, or being, visually impaired or blind or whatever, it's a bit of a drag. Of course it is. But
Yeah,
you've got so many other things going on and so many other opportunities available to you that you can. It's your natural abilities. If you cultivate those and allow those to be at the forefront of the way you think, and not let your disability be at the forefront of the way you think, you've got all the tool set at your disposal to succeed and live a meaningful and fulfilling life. In this kind of more and more inclusive society that we are lucky to be a part of right now. So society is getting better. It is becoming more inclusive. It is becoming more disability aware. And I think it's a great thing that the NCBI are progressing and furthering that agenda and actively doing that every day as part of what they do, to the benefit of its service users. So it's up to the service users to basically let their abilities shine through and jump on that train, and be part of life, and be part of this inclusive society that we live in, because it's ever evolving, and the only way it can evolve further and more progressively is to have people with disabilities at the forefront, showing what they can do and showing how they can progress and showing how they can succeed. And be that through work, be that through education, be that through, sports, be that through anything. It's all about trumping your disability by your shining abilities, and we all have them.
Very true. I mean, at the end of the day, as you rightly say, while the disability might be part of you, it doesn't define you.
Exactly.
And that the more exposure of people with disabilities doing everyday things, it increases the public understanding and public empathy, and it's in the public consciousness so much more, as it rightly should be. So yeah, I 100% agree with those wise words. But for now, Tony, I'd just like to say thanks very much for having a chat with me today. If anybody would like to get in touch with NCBI services, feel free to contact our info line, 1800 911 250, or alternatively, jump onto our website, ncbi.ie. Until next time, thanks very much.